We are ready. Hello, everyone. It's great and nice to be back on our webinars after some time. And I'm thrilled that we have today Professor Phoebe Koundouri, an amazing academic, a Greek, the very best of Greece academia, and Professor Chrysilla Spidou, who is going to moderate our discussion today. I was not going to join this discussion, but I would like to start to show you a small video because we have announced today some of our statistics for our the first 20,000 members. We've reached, we surpassed this mark. We are happy for that, and we would like to thank you all for your kind support. Let us see a small video, not so small, and I will hand over the floor to Professor Chrysilla. I'm sure that you can't see everything over there, so I would like to ask you to check our YouTube channel. We now start phase 2, and this is how our group has been developed the last 16 months. We can accomplish phase 1. 61% from Greece, 7% from Cyprus. We have a full analysis per category per area, country. Portal using blog site. Before next, we have to go to AI-enabled computing platform. We plan to develop local micro-ecosystem, local ecosystem, and support without Apple innovation ecosystem. It all started at the Cambridge, UK, Greece and Cyprus. Ayer tuvimos esta identificaciones. The area to focus, most probably, on renewable energy sources. We will speak with Professor Koundouri and Professor Lapidou. Space economy, quantum computing, synthetic biology, and things like that. And we wish to make Greece a new paradigm, a new scientific paradigm. So, with great pleasure, sorry for the 5 minutes video, Professor Lapidou, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Theo, and I welcome all of you here today. What a great pleasure to be here and moderate this session. My name is Phoebe Koundouri, and I'm a professor at the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Thessaly. I'm also the Vice President of Water Europe, a Brussels-based organization that promotes water. In the last few years, I've had the great pleasure and I was given this great opportunity to work with Professor Phoebe Koundouri, who I am so thrilled to introduce today. Phoebe has built what I would call an empire. She's our empress. So she has built a community of people, of stakeholders, of researchers, of companies, of innovators, with a massive amount of research projects, funding. You can explore all this in Aiphoria. This is the name that we gave, a Greek name as well, with the number 4 for the 4 sound of Aiphoria. She's a world-renowned economist, in the top 2% in the world of the female economists in the world, and extremely active on climate change and innovation. It is great to work with her, and of course to introduce you. I just want to ask you to take notes, because whatever she says, it's so well informed and so current, and her speeches create a lot of questions and interest. Okay, so this is great. Some housekeeping rules. We have this platform. Many of you may not be so familiar with. On your left, there is a raise hand feature. So please use it if you want to ask questions. We would love to hear to have some interaction with you, with the audience. You can either raise your hand and ask to be called on stage. This can happen, at which time I will ask you to introduce yourself, if you want to say a short comment or ask a question. Then pose your questions on the Q&A section, and I will see it and read it. Of course, we have the emoticons. You can, clap and be happy for whatever we say. You can use that. And keep in mind that this event is recorded, and it will be uploaded on the Greek Scientist Society on YouTube channel. And this event is also has live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. So please send us the questions, and we will pass it to Phoebe. So with this, I want to leave you to enjoy her speech. Please, Phoebe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chrissy. It is, first of all, a huge honor and pleasure to talk to the Society of Greek and Cypriot Scientists. I think this is an amazing initiative because it nurses the power of Greek minds around the world, and it showcases how much capacity we have as scientists and even technology developers for helping this badly needed transformation that will allow the world to become sustainable and resilient. And this is a science-driven transformation. It is a technology-driven transformation. And it is, I think, not just a pleasure, but also a duty to contribute towards that. And this transformation cannot be done by a few scientists here and there. It can only be done if we all work together as a scientific community, but also we allow the rest of the world to engage with us and we engage with them. So it's about engaging with the politicians, the policymakers, the businesses, the financial institutions, the technology developers, the NGOs, the civil society. I know it's comfortable when we do our research at our universities and research institutions, but we don't have time to waste. We cannot wait until our research and science reaches the other stakeholders, and then it is adopted by them and it's massively deployed. We don't have the time for waiting this to happen. We need to put effort in order to accelerate our engagement with the other stakeholders, because the transition needs to be very inclusive, and it cannot happen if it's not inclusive. I also want to thank Chrissy. Chrissy is a dear colleague, a close friend, an amazing engineer, an amazing scientist, one of the most dynamic and productive scientists I've met in Greece and abroad. Most of my career I was in the UK, Cambridge, UCL, LSE, and I work with many institutions across the world. Chrissy and her team, the whole team that is now, we are one team now, is a true force of nature with regards to really producing very influential scientific output, and also engaging in communicating this output with the remaining of the stakeholders in order to accelerate our transition to a science-based transformation towards a better world, towards a sustainable world. These days, when I start my speeches, I use this sketch. Is trying to transpose on two dimensions the simultaneous crisis that we are facing, the pandemic, the huge recession combined with inflation, looking at stagnation that derives from the pandemic, but also other sources, the climate crisis, which transposes into destabilization of the global climate, and is documented into increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events, and the biodiversity collapse crisis, the collapse of the ecosystems and their services on which our production and consumption activities are based. Together with all this, we have the population crisis, the huge increase in population, but also within Europe, the decrease in the population and the aging of the population. And as if all this was not enough, we need to add geopolitical crisis with the now Eastern European war adding additional tensions. The world is only...
I'm sorry to interrupt. We don't see your screen now. You do not have it shared. I know you had it before, and it's a nice slide.
Really? Let me...
Reshare your screen.
Yeah, let me know if it works now. Does it work?
No.
Can you see it?
Okay, now yes, now yes. And if you can take it to full screen, yeah.
Now,
Yes, now we
yeah.
see it.
So the world is only as resilient. Very good, very good. So it takes a few moments to come from me to you. So the world is only as resilient as the least resilient country and person. Now I've changed my slide. Can you see it? Chrissy?
For some reason, it's not there now. I think maybe
you don't see it.
No. We need to take it to maybe presentation mode. I'm not sure. Maybe Theo can help us with try again. Technology should not be betraying us, but
yeah, if I have to reshare each slide, how about this?
Now we see it, yes, but maybe take it to presentation mode. I'm not sure that plays.
When I do it, you don't see it anymore. That's a problem. Can you see it now?
We see the slide, yes. We see your slide, but not the presentation mode.
Maybe can you switch to slideshow mode, please?
It is slideshow mode. On my computer,
no,
it is slideshow.
On your
it is on my computer. It is slide.
That's correct, but I mean slideshow, the one next to the bar with the percentage slideshow.
So they say F5 or Shift F5. Can you try that? The button F5. It should be working. We don't. Nothing is changing really. So at the bottom of the screen, next to the bar that you change the size, you see. Oh, now
we lost Phoebe.
We lost Phoebe now.
You can take it from there, Chrissy.
I don't have the presentation.
You have worked so many times with her, so you can rehearse her presentation. And
is it better now? Is it better now?
We lost her.
Right, look amazing. Just show us your screen and all right.
Okay. Can you change slide? Go to the next one.
Can you see this?
No, not when you click that. Maybe if you go to the bottom next to the bar that changes the size, there is that symbol at the very bottom.
Oh. Of what? Of this software?
Yeah, of this screen at the very, very bottom in PowerPoint. At the very bottom, yes, on the left, the first thing after the sliding bar, not that. 1, 2, 3, 4 thing. That one. No, you were there before. Next to the sliding bar.
Sliding bar. First, I see a camera. Then I see a microphone. Then is my share slide function. Then are some happy faces, and then I have this weird thing. So
maybe you can show this screen if it's not a problem. But
this is okay.
Next to the sliding bar at the bottom of your PowerPoint.
There. There's that on the left a little bit. On the left.
A little bit left. Not this one.
Here.
Yeah.
No, guys.
Just go to the next slide, Phoebe. Go to the next. I mean, here, maybe we can see that it goes to the next one. Click to the left to go to slide 3 or hit next on your arrows on your keyboard. Yes.
Does it go to the next one?
This works. Yes, this works. So you can do it
like that. Okay, but it's not a slideshow.
It's not a slide, but it's okay. We can totally see the screen.
Okay, let's do that. So this is the Alliance of Excellence for Research and Innovation on Aiphoria. So it's a cluster of 3 research institutions, or 4 research institutions: the Research Laboratory on Socioeconomic and Environmental Sustainability at the Athens University of Economics and Business, I direct this laboratory. The Athena Research and Innovation Center. This is the biggest research center in the country under the Ministry of Development, which focuses on information technologies. Here we have the Sustainable Development Unit, where we do work on green and digital transformation pathways. The International Center for Research on the Environment and the Economy I create. This is a private research center with many projects on the interaction between the economy, the society, and nature. All these three are directed by myself with a very dynamic research team that coordinates between the different institutions, and the Stochastic Modeling and Applications Laboratory, again at Athens University of Economics and Business, that is directed by Professor Giannakopoulos, who is a very close collaborator and a member in all other institutions that I've just presented. These are our research and innovation institutions funded by only competitive funding, and this is important for me to highlight, only competitive funding from Europe and international funding solely on research and innovation. Then we have the research acceleration part of our Alliance of Excellence is the EIT, the European Institute of Technology and Innovation, that is funding Climate Kick Hub of Greece. Again, I coordinate this hub, and its focus on accelerating technologies and social innovation that is relevant for the transition to a climate neutral economy. We also have two incubators and accelerators, the Klima Accelerator on Maritime, at the moment incubating 25 different startups that are focused on solutions for the transition of the maritime sector to a climate neutral and a climate resilient sector. This is a European accelerator with 25 different startups across Europe and beyond. And then we have Brigade Connect. Again, I'm one of the founding members. This is an accelerator focused on innovations that are relevant to climate adaptation, forest fires, heat waves, floods, extreme precipitation, and so on. At the moment, we incubate 120 startups with relevant solutions. The research and innovation acceleration work that we do, the last 25 years, we've managed to gather more than 500 million into research funding. And this allows us to have cutting-edge researchers from Greece, but also outside Greece, that contribute to the research that we focus on. About 200 postdocs, professors are working together, and Chris is one of the prominent members of our team. We also work very closely with the Science Policy Network. I am the elected president of the European Association of Environmental Resource Economies, the oldest and biggest association, scientific association of environmental economies in the world, more than 1,500 institutional members from 85 different countries, which focuses on research that has to do with identifying optimal policies and financing for the management of natural resources and the environment. This is an area that is in big demand the last, let's say, 20 years. This is the most fast-growing area in economics, and I think at least we try to be constructive for not just for with regards to the quality of the research output, but also trying to build a very strong interface with policymakers, but also with technology developers, mainly in the decision support systems, and also understanding human behavior on which we want to base our policies and our financial instruments. We are also very heavily involved in the Sustainable Development Solutions Network of the UN. This is a global network with hubs in each and every country of the world, trying to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. I chair the European Hub with 400 university members, and the Greek Hub with all the universities in Greece and research centers are member institutions. I will tell you more about this at the end of the lecture. As Chrissy said, Chris is the Vice President of Water Europe. This is the biggest platform in Europe on technology and innovation of water. I also contribute to the water value section of Water Europe, and we try again with regards to the policy interface, research and policy interface. And then is the Nexus cluster. This is a cluster of many European projects working on the water, food, energy nexus, and it's a nexus that is quite important to manage correctly in order to move to sustainability. So our overreaching goal is to achieve the transformations that are needed by 2030 for the implementation of Agenda 2030, the 17 SDGs. And then by 2050, the target by 2050 is to have social and economic sustainability within a stable Earth system. I would like to first quickly go through the policy framework and then showcase how the implementation of the SDGs is possible. This is a non-technical presentation, but you can understand that the background work that is needed in order to sketch and pave the pathways, the technological pathways, the financial pathways, and the policy pathways that will allow the transformation that we are talking to is a very technical exercise. Here's the policy framework of the sustainability transition. These are the policies that we take into account in our general equilibrium models, or the systems models that we run in order to use as the basis of where we want to go. So sustainability appeared in the policy agenda in the 1970s. However, the relevant policies that are really affecting the transformation pathways and the pace of the transformation can be summarized if we go back to 2015. 2015, New York, September, we signed the Agenda 2030, 17 SDGs, 169 targets within them, a very holistic, integrated framework for transformation. A few months later, the Paris Agreement, 197 countries agreeing to reduce emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, in order to keep the increase in average global temperature below 2 degrees Celsius compared to this temperature that we had during the pre-industrial era. 2019, the IPCC report, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, where I participate and represent the European Association of Environmental Resource Economics, makes clear that we don't have the luxury of a 2 degrees Celsius increase. We can only afford a 1.5 Celsius increase. We don't have the technology to live well in a world that faces a temperature increase of 2 degrees. So that was a firm and explicit statement that we need to try harder with regards to the reduction of the SDGs. Chrissy, let me know if this works. In 2019, can you see the sketch with the 6 transformations for the implementation of the SDG? Chrissy? So basically, in 2019, we have identified a way to operationalize the SDGs. As SDSN, Sustainable Development Solutions Network, we presented during the Climate Week the 6 transformations that can operationalize the SDGs. And they can operationalize them because they transpose the structure, the government structure of most nations. Basically, we say that 17 SDGs are too many to become priorities for government. We need to group them into transformations, and these transformations represent the ministries that need to be involved in order to achieve the transformation. So we need education, gender and inequality. This is the first transformation.
Now we don't see again. We don't see your screen again now. So you
okay,
should
I'm resharing. Let me
apparently
continue. How about now? The first transformation is education, gender, and inequality. Can you see it now, Chrissy?
Yes.
The second is health, well-being, and demography. The third one is energy decarbonization and sustainable industry. The fourth one is sustainable food, land, water, and oceans. The fifth one is sustainable cities and community. And the sixth one is the digital revolution for sustainable development. So this is where we work. These are the transformation we're going to pay for each and every country in the world in order to showcase how the transition can be made and how one can accelerate this transition. 2019, end of 2019, we have the European Green Deal. The European Green Deal is basically has 4 main axes: climate neutrality by 2050, clean tech leadership for European companies, reduction of pollution, and of course, leave no one behind. Social cohesion for during the transformation, engage everybody in the transformation in order to enable the transformation and in order to have everybody included. Then we know that the European Green Deal is financed through the Europe Sustainable Investment Plan, 1 trillion. Some of it to be from the EU budget and some of it to be leveraged by public-private partnerships. 2020, unfortunately, we have COVID, the pandemic, and combined with the short-run solutions, we thankfully have the medium-run solution from Europe, which is the Next Generation EU. The Next Generation EU is basically 750 billion in funds, in addition to the multi-annual financial framework of 1 trillion that is investing, that is financing investments that are green and digital. And it is quite important that during this huge non-linearity, the growth strategy of Europe remained to be the European Green Deal. And we didn't quickly revert to targets that were unsustainable by arguing that this is such a huge non-linearity, is such a huge recession that we cannot afford to care about green and digital. And we just need to care about saving the people and employment. the importance of this decision to remain green and digital and allow additional funding only for investments that are green and digital is should not be underestimated, because this is a statement that the cheapest way towards well-being, job creation, and positive growth multipliers is through becoming sustainable and resilient. So the RFF, the Recovery and Resilience Plan, finances investments that are at minimum 35% climate related. They do no significant harm to the environment and are 25% digital related. So we are talking about improving connectivity, helping citizens develop digital skills, deploy cutting edge technologies, improve cybersecurity. And with regards to climate-related expenditure, we are talking about decarbonization, circular economy, restoring biodiversity, and strengthening sustainable mobility. And 2021 is just a year of transposition of the general principles of the European Green Deal into specific policies and strategies. Highlights in this are the climate law, the European climate law that is being transposed into different countries with the commitment of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030 and becoming climate neutral by 2050. Together with the climate law, we have this huge step, the EU taxonomy, that is basically a framework that enables the flow of capital to be directed to activities that are sustainable. And sustainable activities are explicitly named: investments that are relevant to climate mitigation, climate adaptation, sustainable use and protection of water and marine resources, circular economy, pollution prevention, control, and biodiversity. And at the same time, a proposal for corporate sustainability reporting directive, which extends the scope to all large companies. All large companies have to submit a corporate sustainability report, and all companies that are listed in regulated markets. And in this report, now you need to have very specific information, and this information is audited and digitally tagged. So all the financial and business sector is being transformed through these regulations towards a green and digital transition as well. And together with all this, we have the Fit for 55. These are 13 legislative proposals that try to change the regulatory and tax framework of Europe into a tax framework that will enable the transition to a 55% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. So we have a revision of the energy taxation, revision of forestry strategy, the directive on deployment of alternative fuels, revision of the regulations with regards to cars, vans, aviation, maritime shipping, but also revision of the emissions trading system and many more. So we see that we have in general transposition of the policy framework and the regulatory framework in order to be able to meet the pledges that have been announced by Europe at the COP, at the UN Conference for Climate. And it is important to understand that Europe is a leadership example of this transition, because it is mainly in Europe that the pledges for reduction in greenhouse gas emissions have been transposed into policies and legislation and law. The rest of the world, we have in the last 2 or 3 years unprecedented momentum with regards to commitment to becoming climate neutral by 2050. 40 countries after the COP have committed to it. China by 2060, India by 2070, and US and China agreed to continue climate negotiations. However, a pledge is important, but what makes the transition possible is the transposition of the regulatory policy and legal framework into a framework that will enable this transformation, will enable the transition to climate neutrality. Of course, we had other very good news from the COP, but if I had to point out one, because I cannot talk forever, I don't want to bore you. I've been to the COPs the last 20 years. It was the first COP that the financial sector, 450 businesses and financial institutions worth more than 130 trillion, has vowed to put climate at the heart of finance. And they are doing that because climate neutrality, renewables are now renewables, the transition to circular economy, nature-based solutions, adaptation investments, digital investments, all of these investments are now creating huge financial and profit-making opportunities. Before, they were not cost efficient. So the finance sector was not interested. Now they became cost efficient and they provide a huge array of profit-making opportunities, which at the same time will allow a positive footprint on the environment and on society. And all this has been made possible because technological advancement has been so fast. During this era of the fourth industrial revolution, we are lucky in our general crisis setting that the technological pace, the technological advancement is so fast that enables cost-efficient technologies that are at the same time climate resilient and ecosystem resilient, and they can also help the social cohesion if wide accessibility is enabled through mainly digitalization. 2021, again, we have a hectic regulation and policy implementation with regards to the EU taxonomy and the own resources. And of course, we have the war as well. So there is a huge discussion in Europe, which has to do with whether we should include in our EU taxonomy nuclear and natural gas, together with hydropower and hydrogen. Hydrogen is supposed to be the future. By 2030, Europe is promising to put all the necessary background for becoming a hydrogen economy. But these nuclear and natural gas are relevant resources. I'll tell you my view, which is not consistent with the European view. And I've said this, the European Parliament, I've said that this in many European fora. Nuclear energy, which and natural gas, which have been admitted to the EU taxonomy in 2022 through a climate delegated act, for me are not green, and they cannot be considered green. Natural gas has a huge footprint on the environment, much bigger than renewables, of course, and nuclear has toxic waste. And it's dangerous, and they are both expensive, and you need very long-run investments to really get the new plants going. So if we are facing now an energy crisis, and we've been facing an energy crisis 1 year before the war because we had the disruptions due to of the value chain due to COVID. We had a very cold winter. We need a huge energy demand, a very hot summer, huge energy demand, low wind power, which reduced the production from wind parks. all this together with the huge energy crisis in China and the quick reaction of China in buying LNG resulted in Europe really facing huge supply deficiencies. And then the war came with the a problem with all of our supplies that have to do with natural gas, and at the end of the day we realized that we need to reduce our dependency on natural gas from Europe. So this is the energy from Russia. This is the energy situation, and actually it's the time to say, well, we said so. We've been screaming in Europe for faster and bigger investments in renewables, wind, solar, offshore wind, wave energy, geothermal. We've been screaming for storage capacity increases. But the answer was, we are going there, but we are going to go at a pace that the cost efficiency allows us. But this is not true, because even 3 years ago, we knew that today renewables will be the most cost-efficient solution in terms of financial cost, the solution that has lower footprint on the environment, and this also should be translated into costs. And I will discuss this a bit later. And we also knew that we face geopolitical dependency and risk if we import a big amount of our energy. So this is the time to say, we told you so. And this is the time where, yes, we are going to need to use in the very short run. Now that the crisis is being going on, we are going to use some fossil fuel and natural gas. But the idea is that, and this is what is important, the EU taxonomy should not include natural gas and nuclear. Why? Because the EU taxonomy refers to new investments. So if you're going to invest on a new plant, then do it on renewables. You have no reason, financial, environmental, social, geopolitical reason to invest in anything but renewables, to invest in transposition of production into a circular production model. So new investments should be the clean and low cost ones, and the ones that we control. And I will stop with regards to the policy framework and just proceed with what we did, show you how we put all of this together in order to create a policy frame, pathways for each and every country, at least in Europe. Now we are going to do it across the world for the joint implementation of Agenda 2030 and the European Green Deal. How can we sketch the pathways for a green and digital job-based and inclusive recovery from COVID-19? Our report basically, and this is an annual report from the SDSN Europe, which I call it, with Jeff Sachs, who is the president of SDSN from Columbia University. Basically, we have put together the SDGs, the European Green Deal, the European semester process, and the EU Next Generation funds to support policymakers with actionable strategies that can guide EU-wide and national economic recovery in line with Europe's overarching sustainable agenda. And our main conclusion is that beyond fiscal stimulus that is expected to boost aggregate demand, this crisis calls for transformative public investments that will shape a sustainable, fair, green, and digital transition and leverage private sector investment. So we started with a machine learning cross mapping of the 9 different policies of the European Green Deal, having to do with biodiversity, sustainable food systems, sustainable agriculture, clean energy, sustainable industry, building and renovating, sustainable mobility, enabling eliminating pollution and climate change. And we transpose these policies and their details into the SDGs and the 115 targets that are relevant for European countries. The total number of targets, as I said before, is 169, but 115 are relevant for Europe. And we showcase a very close connection between the SDGs and the European Green Deal. And then we proceed with the recommendations from the European semester process, which basically every 6 months Europe comes to each and every country and gives a recommendation with regard to specific policies that need to be better aligned with the European average. So what we did is that we used the results from our Sustainable Development Report. This is a report that SDSN publishes every year and includes information on each country of the world, on how well they are performing with regards to the implementation of the SDGs. So this is the picture for Greece. Red means you are in a stagnation mode, you are very far away from reaching the goal. Orange means that you are facing significant challenges. Yellow means significant challenges remain. And green means that the SDG has been implemented. And this is measured explicitly with an array of indicators that are comparable between the countries and across time. What we did for each country, in Europe, the 27 countries of Europe, we transposed the performance of SDGs to the recommendations from the semester process and try to see whether the two are aligned, whether you get the recommendation in the areas of the economy and society and environment where you are not doing very well in achieving the SDGs. With regards to Greece, we had an 80% alignment between the SDGs and the European process recommendation, and the European averaging all the different 27 countries, we have a 72% alignment, which is not bad, but that shows that there is still space for further alignment. Now, knowing where you are is good, but you also need to figure out how you can proceed. We have our blueprint. Our blueprint is the SDGs. And the European transposition of the SDGs allow me to say that is the European Green Deal. And what we proceeded to do is to sketch technological pathways that identify the optimal mixture for each country for investments in renewable, circular economy, nature-based solutions, adaptation process, and digitalization. And our pathways are systemic in nature, so they look at the different systems within an economy, the energy system, the land use system, the mobility system, and so on. And they really engage in this idea of the need for a fundamental transformation that cannot be triggered with gradual incremental changes. What we need is to understand the holistic, integrated nature of the SDGs. No SDG is fully implemented without all the other SDGs being implemented, and the transformations that are needed within the 6 areas that I showed you before. So we need to trigger exponential change in decarbonization rates, but also in the way we treat biodiversity, in the way we treat our social system, and invest in social cohesion and job creation. And in our experience has taught us that achieving systemic change requires different order of innovation. So we need a portfolio finance model, we need portfolio of connected innovation projects, and we need a wide appreciation of change leverages. So we work in this systems innovation spectrum, which can be understood as a combination of systems thinking and the process of innovation that enables transformative change within complex systems. In summary, our results was that the European Green Deal should be conceived on a systems approach, like I said, simultaneously addressing multiple objectives and promoting the right mixture of policy instruments and technological solutions that can be used across the various sectors of the economy. So with regards to the power sector, we need to progressively phase out traditional sources and identify the right mixture of renewables. With regards to the industry, we need to focus on hard-to-abate segments like cement, iron, steel, and petrochemicals. And we need to look at both direct and indirect emissions. With regards to transport, we need to focus on roadways and railways and airways and navigation. And with regards to building, we need guidelines for new building and retrofitting strategies for the old ones. Our 6 pillars for decarbonization refer to zero carbon electricity, electrification of end users, green systemic fuels, smart power grids, materials efficiency, and sustainable land use. And not only we look at the technological mixtures of innovation, but we also worry about the labor market and social cohesion. So we've showed that the European Green Deal will lead to approximately 1 million new jobs in energy and energy-related sectors. But we need to be very careful. Most of these jobs are highly skilled positions, require substantial training. So we need a serious investment in upskilling and reskilling in order to have inclusiveness in this transition pathway. It is also important to understand that the EU climate policies will have regressive effects. We should not deny that. We should focus on mitigating this regressive effect. Our general equilibrium model identified the package of measures that can allow mitigation of this regressive effect for the vulnerable household. This comprises of redistributing revenues through lump sum transfers, targeted energy efficiency measures, job retraining programs, and funding of subsidies for new low-carbon technologies via general taxation. And we show that combined mitigation policies can ensure more equality in all areas of Europe, increased GDP, and increased employment. And it's not only the employment, it's how you finance this innovative transformation, what kind of fiscal policies you need, how should the financial sector react, and how should the businesses react. And it is true that governments lately are asked to make significant long-term investments and play an entrepreneurial role to provide the patient long-term strategic finance that is needed to support sustainable innovation. Since the 1980s and before the pandemic, the government was supposed to intervene only if you had a market failure. Now we are asking the governments to have a different role. And this role has to be also reconceptualized at the macro, meso, and micro level in the economy. At the macro level, the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund need to reconceptualize financial stability and their missions to include climate and environmental degradation risk. At the meso level, the national public investment organizations should provide positive sources of long-term finance. And at the micro level, it is quite important that the businesses understand that those who switch sooner towards sustainable practices will be the most competitive, and the most innovative ones will be the ones that will gain more market share. And it is also important to be able to allow the performance, the financial performance of a company to be combined with its performance with regards to its footprint on the society and the environment, and allow in this way the two narratives to be able to be shared with the shareholders and the clients of a company in a hybrid metrics way. So we need a hybrid metrics that allows a single measurement system that combines social and environmental impact with the standard measures of financial performance. Only then we will have a real a real transformation of the companies into sustainable companies, sustainable financially, sustainable with regards to the natural capital that they use, and sustainable with regards to their human capital and the way they treat their human capital. Very important in this transformation is, of course, the way the companies have to report on their performance. And we've developed a three-steps approach, a holistic three-steps approach that is necessary for business to create the value and move beyond compliance of the SDGs, the environment, social, and governance targets. And this is an approach that has now been embraced by the UN, and we are creating a global ESG SDG academy that will educate and invest in capacity building in the business and financial world with regards to how they can perform well with regards to their obligation for sustainability reporting. And the first step is mapping the value chain of the company, the products and the services, then measuring the ESG performance of the company and linking this ESG performance with the SDGs. It is quite important to understand how the SDGs contribute to the economy. So, and each company, the biosphere SDGs, the land use, marine ecosystem, water systems, and climate change are the basis and are the biggest contributor to any production activity. And this is the natural capital of a company. That is, it's either privately owned or publicly owned, but used because no explicit property rights are there. And then you have the social capital, which has to do with issues that have to do with poverty and sustainable cities and access to renewable energy and good health and education and equality. And then you have the economy, the SDGs that have to do with sustainable production and consumption and decent work and sustainable infrastructure and income equality and responsible production and consumption. And it is important that each and every company realizes the different components of capital that it uses in its production process. It identifies them through the SDG measurement and transposes them into environmental, social, and governance criteria that are to be reported in the sustainability report. We show in a recent article that ESG performance is compatible, is correlated at least with good financial performance, lower systemic risk, improved profit margins, and better returns and returns on equity. So it is becoming apparent that the companies that are really profitable are the ones that are recognizing and investing while they understand that their production is a function of produced capital, human capital and natural capital. And even they go beyond and they understand the contribution of the natural capital, not just in the provisioning services, for example, food production or water or fuel, but also in the supporting services, how nutrient recycling and soil formation and primary production and habitat provision are supporting the production of their goods and services, cultural services and regulating services. So it is important for any public or private or public-private partnership investment decision to be able to understand the different contributions from the three different capital sources and monetize these contributions. And once you monetize them, you can only then be able to compare the cost and benefits over the relevant time horizon and identify the investment that is more profitable, but is also more robust with regards to environmental resilience and conservation of the natural capital, which you will use next day as well. So you cannot destroy it in one go. You need to have a sustainable use of this natural capital, and there are many models that show you how to do this. And then the social cohesion aspect is also important, and we should monetize that as well. We develop a procedure where we first use a life cycle analysis for each and every production that is used, starting from the footprint of the raw material towards the waste, towards the life of a product, and then the way its waste is used. And by identifying the physical footprint of each production process, we then use methodologies that combine psychology, economics, and statistics to transpose this physical footprint into monetary terms and be able to include in a cost-benefit analysis financial flows of natural capital in monetary terms, and flows of social capital in monetary terms as well. And this is quite important to happen if you are going to make wise decisions. In the 25 years of my career, one quarter of my work is focused on monetizing non-marketed goods and services. And I can tell you, in all the case studies that I've worked across the world in all 5 continents, natural capital is the biggest part of any production and consumption process. So by ignoring it, because it's difficult to monetize it, you are by definition misallocating your resources and identifying the wrong investment opportunities. The wrong investment opportunities, if you assess your investments according to their financial footprint, but also their footprint on the environment and on the society. So this is what I4IA does. We, as I told you, we are this cluster of institutions. We work on research innovation acceleration, and deep demonstration. And we work in a very systemic network of identifying the challenges. We also work in 2 dimensions, time and space, and we try to put together the supply side, the technology, the biophysical modeling, the technological modeling, including renewable, circular economy, nature-based solutions, digital twins, smart solutions, AI, machine learning, and so on. And then the demand side, we do a lot on behavioral economics. We try to retrieve the preference map of people and trying to understand how they make decisions under uncertainty and ambiguity. And through this understanding, estimate the relevant demand curves and then bring together the demand and supply curves over time and over space using systems problem solutions and identify which policies and financial instruments are able to bring this dynamic and geospatial equilibrium between demand and supply. Very quickly, and I'm finishing, these are, I don't know if you can see the different projects that are coming at slides. Our first thematic area is climate change mitigation adaptation, green, digital, and just recovery pathways, circular economy, and nature-based solutions. And each of the slides is a different project, usually a multi-million project with many institutions involved. Then we work a lot on blue growth. So we have the accelerator that I talked to you about on maritime. We have the SEAS project, which is about sketching sustainable pathways in the Mediterranean, Black Sea, Caspian, and the Aral Sea, and many projects, tens of projects on energy production from the sea, marine protected area, coastal flooding, citizens engagement in coastal areas, marine plastic, and wave energy, offshore, multi-use offshore platforms. Our fourth area is water, food, energy nexus, and many projects on agriculture, smart agriculture, smart urban water systems. Last year, we've won a European Research Council grant of 10 million, which is very prestigious, in order to develop the next generation of smart urban water systems, putting together 4 PIs. Myself as the PI focus on decision theory, then Marios Polikarpou on systems and control theory, Dragan Savic on water science, and Barbara Hammer on machine learning. And finally, our final thematic area is, of course, innovation and acceleration of innovation through our work with the EIT Climate Kick, and also through our accelerators on maritime and also on climate adaptation. We do also a lot of professional courses for upskilling and reskilling, and we also engage very vividly in the UN SDG Academy, where we produce mass open access courses on all the SDGs and their transposition. Basically, this is our work. I will close by saying that as SDSN Europe, we also work on 4 major initiatives: sustainable agri-food systems and land use, the European Green Deal Senior Working Group. I've showed you some of the work there. The SDSN SEAS initiative, and the European Sustainable Development Report that reports every year on the achievement of the SDGs in Europe. You can see that the red is in the southern and eastern part of Europe where we are not doing very well, whereas the greens are up in the north. I will close by introducing the Climate Hub. This is the new global climate hub of SDSN. It will have its headquarters in Athens. It's co-chaired by Jeffrey Sachs, Yannis Ioannidis, that comes from the information technology science, Christos Zerefons from climate science, and myself. And the idea is to engage the global network of SDSN. You can see where our network is, and align our different climate projects, climate and energy projects. There are too many. I will not go through them, in order to work with governments across the world in order to develop the technological, financial, and policy pathways that will accelerate the transition to climate neutrality. I will stop here. Thank you for your patience.
All right, fantastic. I see people, I don't know if you see the reactions, clapping, hearts, thumbs up, cool, all kinds of nice reactions.
Thank you, Chris.
Many people say that it was a very informative. Gerasimos Georgopoulos said, very balanced presentation. Emanuel Alexandrakis, very informative, very insightful. All right, there were a couple of questions. One, utility question: will we share the slides? I don't know if you.
Oh yes,
Okay.
yes, with great pleasure. Thank you for asking.
So the slides will be shared, and by Theo, probably he will share it with the audience. And then Chris Mimilis, he asked about for some examples on monetization when you were speaking about these idea of monetization.
Yes, so basically the last, let's say 30 years, the environmental economists have worked with cognitive psychologists and, of course, statisticians. Economists have a very strong statistical background, at least applied economists. My background is statistics and maths. So the way that the economic science has developed is, for good or bad, is not yet decided. It's basically mimicking engineering and physics. So what we try to do in order to evaluate natural capital, for example, let me give you an example of natural capital. Natural capital, we don't have the price of a unit of natural capital because it is not traded in a market. So clean air is not traded in a market. Let's take this example. So what is the value that people assign to clean air? Do people care about clean air? Mm-hmm. Would they be willing to pay for clean air if it was not available without any, if it was not publicly accessible? So to answer these questions, we try to mimic a market. So we put people in a lab, and sometimes our team tries to make it even more cutting edge and provide the people with a market, an artificial market reality where different scenarios with regards to the quality of air are presented to them. And then we try to ask questions from which we can retrieve the data we need in order to then statistically estimate their demand curves from clean air. A demand curve tells you how much people are willing to pay in order to get different quantities and qualities of a good or service. So we try to, by using the mathematical underpinnings of microtheory, we try to simulate a virtual reality of different qualities and quantities of a particular good that is not traded in a market. And so because it is not traded in a market, you do not have prices, and prices in economics are signals of value. How much people are willing to pay is basically telling you how much people value this good or service, of course, with a budget constraint. So we simulate these markets and we try to retrieve the value of these goods. And by doing that, we make explicit the contribution of nature and the ecosystems of nature to the welfare of people. And this valuation, this monetization is then incorporated in cost-benefit analysis. So if you want to invest in creating a new, let's say, motorway, you need to take into account how much people are willing to pay for better, let's say, transportation, but you also need to take into account the footprint of this motorway on the ecosystem, on the environment, on the possibility of increased traffic, because if you have a new motorway, usually you increase traffic and so on. So these kind of methodologies are being very hectically developed the last 30 years. And I should tell you that the valuations that we produce are used even in court cases, and specifically when we have oil spills. So the money that the oil companies, the tanker companies pay in court and out of court settlements for oil spills are based on this kind of valuations, because these oil spills basically destroy the marine ecosystem. And the marine ecosystem provides a very important ecosystem services, carbon sequestration, fish for food, aquaculture that might be there. You lose the resilience of the food chain because you lose many species. So all this is monetized, and then the payments that the companies that are responsible for the oil spill that they make are based on these valuations. And we do this for all different public goods, and it doesn't have to be only environment. It could be health, it could be education. All the important goods are public, and they are public because it's very difficult to have explicit property rights. So everybody can access them and use them without paying. And they are difficult goods to handle in an economics perspective. And that's why I always say the most difficult part of economics, it's environmental economics and all the other sectors that have to do with public goods. Because if the good is private, you have the price, you have the signaling of people valuations and their willingness to pay, and how much their welfare depends on these particular goods. When something is not private, though, you don't have the signal, and you have to identify and measure the signal before you make any investment decisions, because natural capital is very important in all production decisions.
Very, very good. I see also, a question about why don't we engage more artificial intelligence tools and mechanisms for efficient reporting? And I'm sure you will tell them we already do.
We do, and it's very important because all these processes are very data hungry. Mm-hmm. They are explicit, they are science hungry and data hungry, and digitalization together with AI and machine learning are crucial. And they are becoming more crucial the more sensors we have. Mm-hmm. And all this transformation towards smart infrastructures are making our ability to access data, even real-time data, much bigger. And because of that, we need to employ AI and machine learning in all our attempts to measure the performance of a company and the footprint of a company on different areas of the environment, the economy, and the society. So AI and machine learning is part of each and every project. And it's very difficult nowadays to do your analysis without them.
Exactly. Very good. You mentioned already in your ERC grant, one of the PIs is on machine learning, right? Okay.
Yes, of course. And also the way we've done the transposition between SDGs and the European Green Deal, because the documents are endless. The pages are in the hundreds of thousands. It's huge. So again, we use machine learning for that cross mapping.
Very good. There is a question from Evgenia Koroneo.
You may use, Professor Laspid, if I may interrupt, you may use the Q&A section.
Sure.
And if somebody wants to be invited on stage, please let us know. I've seen before George Vlatakis, he raised his hand during the session. Please feel free to ask your questions on Q&A, not in on the chat area.
Okay.
So whatever you like, of course.
Exactly. So one question is, according to your knowledge, do you see nuclear and gas entering into the taxonomy?
Okay. If I want to be not inspirational or visionary, but become a bit laconic and cynic, I will say that probably they will come in. Why? Just look at the percentage of nuclear in France, 40% production of energy through nuclear. And gas in Germany, 25%. So it's Germany and France that they are intruding into the EU taxonomy, and they are imposing the ability. They are imposing their status quo on the future of Europe. So because they are too big, and also at the same time they don't face any real opposition from other governments except some northern governments. And why they don't face real opposition? Because the rest of the countries also have a big percentage of their energy being produced by gas, less so by nuclear. It's just contributing and building on the inertia of using the infrastructures that we have and the capacity in terms of knowledge and skills that we have, and continue doing what we did before. So I'm saying that the EU taxonomy will, at the end of the day, include nuclear and natural gas as transition fuels. But for me, this is wrong. Why? Because this has to be clear. This is what politicians do not get. The EU taxonomy refers to new plans. So if you're going for a new plan, you don't have an excuse to use nuclear and gas, other than your inertia and other than your existing capability of using these resources. Renewables are cheaper and cleaner, and we control them fully. However, unfortunately, I think they will be in as transition fuels. Some new nuclear plants will be built. If you see Macron and what's the name of the lady? Le Pen. They both, one thing they agree on their program is that they both propose 6 new nuclear plants, 6 new ones. This is, of course, a reduction compared to the past. Nuclear we phase out, but why invest in 6 new ones when nuclear takes more time to build, is very toxic, it takes 70 years to decommission, and it's definitely 10 times more expensive than a renewable.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, also there are a lot of investments in this area. I think that has to do with why people stick on it, right? I mean, wasn't there a lot of investment on pipes for natural gas transfer and all that stuff? So
There is an investment, and there are contracts, and but again, we are talking about new plants. New, I don't understand. Using the existing ones, I understand, but new, it's just an inertia. It's just because you have so much capacity in terms of skills in your country, and so little effort is investment in transforming the labor force. You know how you make the people who work in gas and lignite and nuclear work in renewables. You need to reskill and upskill them and maybe move them. That's why we have the Just Transition Fund, but the funds are not enough. And at this point, I would like to say that no public money is enough. Most of the money in the world is in private hands. So unless we are serious about this transformation, we definitely need to create solid, viable investment opportunities in the real economy for which the private sector will be interested. And this is why I was hopeful after the COP, because it was not about politicians anymore. It was about the financial sector and the business sector saying, yes, we see opportunities in renewables. Yes, we see opportunities in alternative fuels. We see opportunities in circular economy, and we're going to go forward and invest. And this is where the hope is going to come from. But we need a very good and socially aware policy framework that will allow this public-private partnership to be done in a way that will increase profits, of course, but will also increase jobs and produce positive growth multipliers from where you will be able to support social cohesion and social welfare. We need to make sure that all the people have access to this transformation, and all the people become shareholders of this transformation. They share parts of the profits from this transformation. Otherwise, it will never happen.
All right. So there is one question before, but this sticks nicely now from Cristina Marandello. Yes, but nuclear scientists, for example, would it be possible for them to change the sector? Maybe that is why they
why
still
not?
persist.
Why? I mean, I understand the difficulty. It's not easy, but it's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. But you have to care for these people. You have to have programs, and you have to have real positions that are relevant to their to the status that they need to have in order to perceive a new job position as decent. So for me, it is crucial first to find the alternative jobs for nuclear scientists and gas scientists and people who engage in oil and gas, and then talk about new investments. So 3 years ago, we were invited by the Pope at the Vatican to talk to oil and gas industries. And they were saying, oh, it's too expensive 3 years ago. It's too expensive. It will never happen in our lifetime. Why should we do the transition? And I said, if you don't do the transition, you will be out of job. Nowadays, you see all the oil and gas companies making huge investments in renewables. And not only that, they make huge investments in upskilling and reskilling and retraining their personnel. So it's not easy, but you need the public and the private sector to understand the need of the change, understand that their survival depends on the change, and engage in transforming not only their investments and their productive capital, but their human capital as well.
I see. Very good. Theo asked, even nuclear fusion, if and where is available. So it's that that would be hopeful, I guess. I don't know.
Yes, of course.
All right. And then go ahead, please.
No, please go. Please.
And we had a question about the data. So, in order to collect enormous volumes of data, would a solution to that be an XBRL/ESEF process? See, I'm not familiar with these processes.
Yes, what are these processes?
So, Gerasimos Georgopoulos, maybe.
Gerasime, are you there to tell us what these processes are?
I looked it up. It's some certification, I think, or some sort, but yeah, we're not familiar.
Έλα, Γεράσιμε, πες μας.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Okay, XBRL or SF is a high digital tool of reporting for entities, so they can collect data efficiently from the accounting system or other systems internally, so they can provide a lot of well-structured data.
Γεράσιμε, είσαι από την Qualco.
No, I'm not. I'm from Qualco. I'm from Business Register Greece. Yemi, you know Yemi? Yeah. I'm currently the head of the Greek Business Register, but I'm in the council of CSRD, from NFRD, Account Regulatory Committee, and the Franks appointed in some thematic aspects. So I know a lot. I have some insightful thinking about Green Deal and some aspects of sustainable finance, but I'm very interested about the entities reporting to be well structured and to be very well designed in order to have comparability between different entities. In Greece, we are
and between different entities and between the same entity over time and between different headquarters. I totally agree. This is crucial.
Yes,
the way we gather and manage data is 30% defining the success of any reporting, monitoring, and assessment exercise. And that's why information technology, not only for this reason, but in this particular aspect, big data is so important in this thing. And that's why in the Global Climate Hub that we are launching, one of the co-chairs is Yannis Ioannidis, who is a specialist, a well specialist in a professor at the university with a long career in the US and now in Greece, who is a specialist in big data. So in my vision of the world, there should be a central system that will allow managing this data in a consistent and compatible way so that cross-entities comparison is made possible. And this is basically the vision behind the Corporate Sustainability Directive.
Yes, this is.
They want to make the reporting exercise consistent between the companies so that they can assess and monitor. Nowadays, everybody writes something, measures something, they do whatever they want, and then they say, I have a sustainability report, I'm green.
Yes.
So I totally agree with you, it's crucial.
Yes, this is a great luck. If we cannot manage well-structured data in order to have comparability between same entities, comparability between different sectors, comparability between different countries to see where we are, I think we have a lot. The path is very long, but I think the mistake with the non-financial reporting was that we didn't commit, maybe European Commission didn't press more. It was something that they didn't know and it had a fear about that because it was outside of their scope. So that's why I have a long delay in sustainability reporting. But now we have huge guidance, a lot of guidelines. So we tried now to numerize this process in order to collect data. Okay, I think in 3 or 4 years we'll be in better situation.
By 2026, everybody is obliged to submit a corporate sustainability report, even the SMEs, which is scary if you think about it. It's scary because the backbone of the European economy are SMEs, and they have so low capacity. So unless you create a system that is user-friendly and showcase how their data can be incorporated into the system and enable them to produce some decent sustainability reports, I really don't know how Europe will do this. And it's not only Europe. There are these global standards for sustainability report. And during the last COP, in order to avoid greenwashing, this was a huge discussion. How all these huge vows of trillions and trillions on sustainability transition are going to be scrutinized and assessed, and how are we going to avoid greenwashing? And this is only through a decent process of producing sustainability reports and assessing and monitoring and digitally tracking the information that is incorporated in this report.
Yes,
we have further input on accessing data by George Vlatakis, and as Theo said, maybe you want to come on stage and ask your question. Otherwise, it says accessing data is more difficult due to the fact that the privacy law and the motivation of the entities owning probably make it a non-competitive market. So the privacy and the fact that the entities own their own data and they don't want to share, probably. But we go for open data, right, Phoebe? Isn't that?
This is open data, open science, open data, and also information on the products. The products now need to have the information on the materials they use. There is a lot of information on the products. So the vision of Europe, of the European Commission, because I am part of many of the fora that discuss this, is to be able to digitally tag the information that you have in the sustainability report, and be able to find the information that will cross-validate it on the product information. So this is how detailed they want to go. So one product is produced by this company and it has so much in terms of plastic and so much in terms of emissions and so on. So yes, some information is private, but information that concern the health of the consumer, information that concern the right of the consumer to know should be made publicly available. Otherwise, is unethical. So the idea is to try to get over all these obstacles of privacy and allow the information that is needed for assessing the quality of the product and the footprint of each product on the environment and the society to be open access, and then the consumers can decide what they want to consume and what they don't want to consume. And this is practically one way to raise awareness and change behaviors. And we see that behaviors are changing. And actually the tipping points have come earlier than we used to forecast them with our models 5 years ago. The tipping point of the consumers having explicit environmental demands and being willing to pay more for eco products has become much sooner than we've estimated with our models.
All right. I think
Yeah, you have to stop me, Chrissy, because
yes, I know.
people and I can talk forever, as you know.
It's so pleasant, and I am taking notes. I'm writing like, oh yes, this is a good
yeah.
point. This is a good, always a good
You
point
don't need that.
coming out. It's great. It's great. What a nice discussion. What a, such a vision into the future. I think this is the most important thing of Phoebe's work. It's the vision. It's the vision. It's the ideas and the vision for the future. And we know what we want. We know what the world that we want to live in looks like. I think that's important. So
We have our blueprint. We know where we want to go. They are the SDGs. We have the technology. We can improve it, but we have what we need even now. Not in all sectors, but most of it. We have the money. We just need to have the will to do it. Political will, but also realize the power of the civil society, the power of the consumers, and the power of education that drives the behavior of all of us.
Excellent.
May I have the last question?
Yes, please.
Professor Koundouri? It's an honor. We have you 2 hours almost with us. Thank you so much for your time. I referred before about nuclear fusion, because some guys at the University of Cambridge made a major breakthrough on practically using nuclear fusion, which is, of course, safer and is can have unlimited supplies of low carbon, low radiation energy. I don't know the technology when it's going to be available, but anyway, it's a kind of nuclear power, and maybe the nice one, let's say. But I have another question.
It has a much lower footprint on the environment. It has an economic case. Some people say nuclear fusion, yes, but it is not economically relevant. It has an economic case, I would say. And there are challenges, but I think it's part of the future. At least these are the discussions that I hear about nuclear fusion.
It was very recent, this major breakthrough, and it is because of University of Cambridge. It is.
Yes. I heard
I would like to ask you this. Would you consider that Greece should be focused and somehow, let's say, excel in the water, energy, food nexus? Because we are an agricultural country, and renewable energy source, of course. There is we have the sun and all these things, but is this an area that we should focus more and make it one of the hot topics that our limited scientific, let's say, human capital should focus on?
Definitely renewables.
What would you suggest to have as a national policy? This is my question.
Yeah, national policy. Where is our strength, you mean? There is this mission-oriented approach nowadays in Europe, which basically says focus on a few things that you can be good and focus all of your investments there, and don't spread too thin in all relevant investments. And I would say we are definitely strong in maritime, very strong. We have the biggest commercial fleet, and we have the financial space to be leaders there, and we influence the IMO, and we influence what the rest of the world is doing. I would say that we have a
blue economy. Blue economy,
yeah, blue economy. I would say that we are particularly well placed for renewables, mainly solar, wind, some wind, a lot of strength to be nursed from offshore wind. There are opportunities there in offshore wind. I would also say that we are quite well placed in terms of human capital in the ICT sector.
Mm-hmm.
We are extremely cheap and of excellent quality in this particular sector. And lastly, you are right, the water, food, energy nexus, the water, food, energy, environment nexus. If we could showcase as an agriculture, let's say agricultural country in terms of potential, not in terms of output, that a semi-arid country, most of half of Greece at least is semi-arid. A semi-arid country can show how it can become competitive in the sector of food systems, and showcase how you develop sustainable food systems through smart agriculture and innovative agriculture. I think there is a lot of potential there as well, because we have the technology, we have the tradition, we have some products for which we have a good goodwill. Mm-hmm. And it would be also a way to use a lot of space in the country that is being not well used, because everybody is coming to the cities in order to find employment. Mm-hmm. So it would be good for social cohesion. It will be also something where our tradition has a lot to teach us. And we also have the expertise technologically to do it. There are entities in the country, scientific entities that are world experts in sustainable food systems and smart agriculture. We just need to give them the space to do it, bring the educated people back in the field, and allow them to increase the capacity of the sector to really become competitive. So yes, I think that's an area where we can invest. But the final area that I think we have a huge comparative advantage, and we never really invested in it, in addition to tourists, of course. Tourists, we all know that we are very strong, and it will be good to focus on quality tourists than quantity tourists. But all of this, the sustainable tourist industry is basically based on becoming sustainable in all these different aspects: sustainable coastal management, sustainable food systems, sustainable maybe health recreation systems. So all this is tourist. But the last thing that I think we have a huge potential, and we never invested in it, is to invest in a very competitive education university sector. We have the tradition of, the philosophers and the scientists of the ancient times. We have huge capacity in terms of professors in Greece, outside Greece, that can come and visit and teach, but also people from all around the world who will want to come here and relocate here and teach. It's an attractive place, and we can become an education hub. We can become an education hub that will have students from Europe, from the Middle East, from Africa. We have the capacity, the society has the capacity, it's obvious, and we have the history to build on that. And it's a pity that we've never considered it like this. We think that it's innovative, that we offer some master courses in English. It makes me despair. We should already, I mean, we should have understood that this is one big investment opportunity for Greece, and it provides high quality jobs as well. And it's one way to really revert the brain drain.
Very true. Very true, very true. And very informative for us coming from a field that is not business or law, but we need to ground philosophical arguments and artistic actions. So keep me in your society, says Anna Lazovutu. So thank you for this nice comment.
Yeah, and our culture, I mean, our culture is, it's also a touristic attraction, and it could be combined with education activities as well. So the opportunities are huge. We just need the vision and the political will to transform. And, you know, transformation is a bit risky for politicians. So it will not come from a top-down approach. It will come from a bottom-up approach.
Let's see.
We have also to educate the young generation, cyclical economy, and all this agenda, because...
and we have to transform our universities to provide the courses for the young.
Sure.
I mean, how many courses are on circular economy? Or how many courses are there on One Health structures for sustainable health systems? We need to upgrade and transform and become more interdisciplinary in the way we teach, in the way we do research, because most of the problems in the world are interdisciplinary. So we need interdisciplinary solutions.
Definitely.
So we have to transform our universities.
And the interdisciplinarity, of course, requires collaborations. Same with the Nexus. The Nexus means to leave our little space, our silo, to defragment and to work with each other, which is also very difficult, right? Naturally, very difficult as well.
Outside of our comfort zone.
Exactly. Let's hope. Let's hope this changes. All right.
Let's make the change.
Just a short announcement. We will share the slides that Professor Koundouri kindly will share with us, and the video to all the 750 people and to our community. And thank you so much again. The floor back to you, Chrissy. Thank you so much, Phoebe.
So great to have all of you this late in the evening. You know, what a great event. Thank you, Phoebe, for giving your very precious, very valuable, and very little available time to this event. And please keep inspiring us all. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
Yes.
And for allowing me the honor to address you all. Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. Okay. So, find us in social media. We're very, very active. I am at C Laspidou. We are, Phoebe Koundouri, you can find. We have all our projects linked. So we do a lot through our social media. Keep up, follow us, and you will get the updates. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.